and it doesn't. And also, like, the thing that bothers me is just like, I mean, if you, I kind of, this was something that I really noticed a while ago with a really interesting game that I didn't know existed until like you started playing it. But like the competitive like Pokemon like
Hmm.
thing, like
Yeah.
there were just like I didn't. That was like the first time that I kind of noticed this where like it's so interesting to me that like you could play through like Pokemon just like the regular game,
Hmm.
like with one group of Pokemon with one set of moves, and like you could completely like stomp the AI and you'd be fine. And then there are moves that like you would never ever use in that game, but
Hmm.
then in like the competitive scene, it's like that's the strategy.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's I kind of miss that just like or the same thing for Dark Souls. Like there are always like those people that are like, oh, you're not using the best weapon that supports your certain build, blah blah blah. Or it's like, oh, you leveled one time into this stat when you should have done it into this stat, and so now you aren't like the most efficient like version of your character or whatever, right? But you
Uh-huh.
could still play through the game and be completely fine even though you leveled that one time into like vitality instead of endurance. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like everything isn't like every decision that you make regarding the game isn't like a make or break thing. But with this kind of like the new that new craze of like of making like everything count game and the like 17 part meta of how to build the best whatever blah 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 deck. It's like,
Hmm.
man, like, can I just play a game? I just want to play a game. Like
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
but that's not what's popular right now. Like that's not the market that they're trying to build right now. They're trying to build that esports market.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny too because all these new games that are coming out, like Overwatch, this game Paladins just came out. All
Hmm.
these they're all like kind of like in the same vein. Paladins, Overwatch, and Battleborn, like they all came out, and man, like I was just like watching streams, not because I actually like care about the games, just because like those people that are drawn to that kind of game or people that stream that kind of game are interesting to me.
Hmm.
And man, like everybody is just like the game comes out and like people are just like all in the chat and they're like this has no esports like possibility, like blah blah blah, there's not enough, like, and it's just like, man, like it's just I mean, like never on the box was it like the greatest new esport, like I don't think you I think you might have forgotten like what these people do. Like I'm like, especially Blizzard, like I mean, what I'm just saying, like besides like this game, like Blizzard has never been like the super competitive, you know like when have they ever done that in the past?
Hmm.
Like not every, like they're like, this is never going to be like the next whatever, or this is never going to be, like, because they always think, this is never going to be the next league, this is never going to be the next Counter Strike, this is going to be the next esport. And it's like, dude, maybe maybe that's not what they were trying to make.
Uh-huh.
Like that's not the new, like that's not, like that's not the new, like, because and it's just it's so funny because people used to say that there's always like this new game or like this game type that always like gets the comparison, right? Like a while ago, like years ago, it was always like it was about MMOs and like and Warcraft, and it's like there were like Warcraft knockoffs, and it's like, well, this is never going to be the next Warcraft, this is never going to be the, and it's like, okay, well, like, yeah, you're right, it's probably not going to be the next Warcraft, and yeah, Overwatch probably isn't going to be the next, you know League of Legends, but if you're like chasing that high of like what is going to be the next hyper competitive blah blah blah, it's like, man, like what's even the point? Like you're just chasing like you're chasing the hyper competitive like train, and it's like it's it's just like, why is that? I don't know. I guess I would get bored of that so quickly. Of like, you just have to put yourself in like the most competitive scenario or the most competitive scene of gaming in order to have fun. It's just like seems like a really not great place to be, and I don't like how it's shaping the market.
Yeah.
It's like you're not having fun unless you're playing the most. And it's like, it's always, man, it's like always a competition of like, well, Dota's more, like thought intensive than League of Legends, and no, League is more. And then you have like whatever. What was that game, like Heroes of the Storm?
Uh-huh.
That was a, and it's like, well, that's just like a watered down version of, well, and I'm like, well, maybe it's just like they just took out some parts of the game that some people thought were like not fun, and like, yeah, maybe that turns it into a game where there's less micromanaging, but that doesn't make it inherently worse than another game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like
Yeah.
there was this guy playing it, and he was like, yeah, I used to play League, but I play Heroes of the Storm now because it's like, uh, the not because like League was too complicated, but because there were just parts of it that were like laborious to him. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
like, I just didn't, because I think there's like no gold or something
Yeah, so
in
I,
Heroes of
I
the
think there's no
Storm.
CSing. You
Yeah,
don't have
and
to
so
last hit the
exactly. So
minions.
yeah, you don't have to last hit stuff, and it's like, and anyone can pretty much kill any, like, like you don't have to like, you don't have to like not kill stuff so that your support or whatever can,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right? Like I don't know
Yeah.
enough League terminology to keep going with that. But anyway, he was just like, he's like, I understand that some people like that complexity to the game, but to me, it just like, I didn't like that the measure between like who was better at this was who could like last click the most minions to then buy these items to then get, like, he was like, the fact that the basis for your success over someone else was basically like last hitting minions. He was just like, I just didn't like that, just it stopped being fun for me, so I like this. And so like, whether or not this is better or worse because that aspect isn't there, or like, it's like, I don't really care. This is like what I enjoy playing more, because there were a lot of people that were giving him shit because he used to play that. So then, a lot of people that liked League were like, why are you playing this trash? And he's like, well, you know I
Yeah.
just got tired of that. And they were like, whatever, man, you're just weak, like you just couldn't hang with the League crowd. And he was
Uh-huh.
just like, okay, whatever, man. Like, I just I was over it.
Yeah. It's everybody wants something different. There is no end all be all, and every game's unique.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
some people.
Especially, yeah. It's just like, yeah, some people like that's just, it's like, yeah, there's that, and then there's also like, I mean, I'm just like, that was another thing that I hate. I hate game rivalries. They just don't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like predictably more accurate than like X gun or Y gun, and it's like better for holding this angle, and like, I don't understand why people don't use it, but it's like, because there's this stigma that that's a COD gun and COD is bad,
Mm.
and it's like, I don't necessarily love Call of Duty. I mean, I certainly don't think that like they're like, no one that actually is good at the game calls it a COD gun. Everyone in the game, everyone that's like good at the game that makes content for the game is like, I don't understand why people don't use this. It's like objectively more accurate than like X gun or Y gun, and it's like better for holding this angle, and like, I don't understand why people don't use it, but it's like, because there's this stigma that that's a COD gun and COD is bad,
Mm.
and it's like, I don't necessarily love Call of Duty. I mean, I certainly don't think that like they're deep games in terms of like story and stuff like that, but competitively they're just different than Counter Strike. I mean, you respawn, and it's much more about like running and twitch shooting and not so much like planning each individual move. It's just like outmaneuvering your opponent and like especially with the stuff that's all like futuristic now. It's like there's like wall running and sliding, and it's like really is about like outmaneuvering your opponent, like running up this wall and shooting this guy to then get to this platform where you can snipe this other guy. It's like they're just different. They require different skills, but then it's like, well, fuck Call of Duty. Like that's not, there's no skill involved in that. There's no, and I'm like, there's just different skill. Like, yeah, there's not as much like skill in terms of like strategy, in terms of like into the traditional sense of like chess or like moving pieces or moving people in certain places and that kind of stuff. It's much more like physical, like reaction time, map knowledge, like maneuvering,
Hmm.
but it's just like, but people just don't like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, and it's the same thing with like League and those other games. It's just like, there's like whatever game you play is like the pinnacle of gaming, and everything else is just like trash.
Yeah.
And and that's just draining. That's a draining community to be a part of. Like
Yeah. I
it's a very
generally try to ignore most people that I don't
right.
really know.
Yeah, and it's just, but man, like sometimes when you're in a game for like an hour, it's fucking rough, man. It's just like, oh god.
Yeah. But that's something that's good about games, hopefully, like Overwatch, um, that have a pretty significant price tag on them, as opposed to being free to play. It sort of filters out some of the people who are like that,
Right.
and it like ties more worth to their account, so they're less likely to be jerks in game because their account might get banned and then they're out $40. Whereas in
Yeah.
League, you can be an asshole to somebody and it doesn't matter. You just make a new account.
Yeah. 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 Same thing with Counter Strike. I think, how much is Counter Strike? It's like $20 or something.
Yeah.
No, it's 15.
Yeah.
So like that's not nothing, but also like it goes on sale so much that it ends up being like $5, so people just buy like 20 accounts.
Uh huh.
It's like, I'm also just hoping that it keeps that kind of you know, like I'm not saying like there can't be like a competitive scene for Overwatch, but I'm hoping that it's just like it kind of is the way that it is right now, in that you don't have you don't have ranks. You just like, I don't know. There was an EXP bar, but like it didn't do anything.
It
Like it
just gives you like free stuff when you level up, from what I've seen.
exactly. So I'm
It's like
hoping that it kind of
cosmetics and.
stays like that,
Hmm.
because that would be good, because it kind of takes away the I don't know. It just it makes it less like all of the other games that are out right now. I feel like I'd be more inclined to give it a shot if it kind of did something new, because it's like that's what I'm looking for. Is like, I'm not looking for the next big competitive thing. I'm actually I'm looking for like a break from that. You
Yeah.
know, I'm looking for a like you know something else to play that isn't that that just does something else for me.
Hmm.
I've already found my like competitive market. Like, there are already games that
Yeah.
I'll play if I want to be in that competitive like framework. So I'd like to find a game that does something else for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm really. I was like, I just hadn't been playing anything basically before Dark Souls came out because
Uh-huh.